Nini is going to show us an exercise routine that will help curb the insomnia in no time, I promise. And we will show you a delicious breakfast recipe that even your children will be craving for. So stay tuned for that. My morning coffee chat will be with invited guest, Mr. Ho Tak Lun, who is an author and an expert in mindfulness. So please stay with us. Enjoy the show. Take it away, Nini.
Thank you, Kavita. Hello everyone, I am Nini. Today we are going to explore how breathing through only one side of the nostril, paired with simple forward bending that can be performed at the comfort of our own bed, help us fall asleep easy at night and potentially put a stop onto our insomnia problem. This exercise is called single nostril breathing, and we are going to start by placing our left hand close to the left hemisphere of the chest where the heart is, and using the index finger of the right hand to be placed at the spot where the eyebrows meet. And from there, we're going to close our nostril using only our thumb, and all of the next 3 exercises will be done and performed through the left nostril. And to match the energy at night, we are going to perform this with our eyes closed. We are going to take 3 rounds of breath, inhale and exhale only through the left nostril. We're going to begin with the first one, long, slow inhalation through the left nostril, paired with equally long exhale. Through the same left nostril, inhale again, and equally long exhale one more time. One last time, inhale in a count of 4. Don't forget to keep our breath even and audible. And exhale in a count of 4 as well. Return the hands and open our eyes. In an Asian ancient tradition, it is believed that all breath, inhalation and exhalation that comes and leaves our left nostril matches the energy of the night, which carries the cool moon energy. And this is, of course, advised to be performed just before you go to bed. And we are going to pair it with this next exercise. Let's begin standing up. We are going to start our first stretch today by standing up with our right foot stepped back 2 feet apart from the front foot. My friend Fitrina will be showing an easier demonstration in case you're feeling a little bit stiff today, and myself and Joanne at the back will be demonstrating the full pose. So Fitrina will be placing her hands on the waist while Joanne and I will be touching elbow to elbow with our hands behind the back. We're going to take a long inhale here. I would highly suggest for us to perform these exercises with our eyes closed. And exhale, Fitrina is just going to lower her body, level with the floor, and Joanne and myself will try to touch our head towards our legs. Staying for 5 breaths, pumping so much oxygen from our heart to our brain. At the 8th breath, we are going to slowly stand up, and only when we are in the initial starting position, we are going to slowly open the eyes and step the back foot forward. We are going to perform the similar stretch on the other side, stepping our left foot about 2 feet to the back. Taking an inhale, start to close our eyes, and for another 8 breaths, let's stay here, enjoying the delicious stretch and matching the energy of the night with our eyes closed. At the 8th breath, slowly stand up again. And when you're stable, open your eyes and return to initial standing position by stepping forward. The next 2 exercises can be performed on our bed right before we go to sleep. So let's cross our ankles and sit. We are going to extend our legs forward with our feet open, hips width apart. If you're taking the easier variation like Fitrina, you might want to either bend your knees and maybe place a bolster under your knees. Otherwise, if you're taking my variation, we're going to catch just outside of the feet. We're going to take an inhale, looking up. And don't forget to close our eyes to match energy of the night and in our sleep. And we're going to try to level our head with our heart. We're trying to stay here for about 8 breaths or a minute. And the idea of how this stretch can help us fall asleep easier is when the brain is level with the heart, the brain can try to slow its mental activity by matching the reduced speed of our heartbeat by following how we've been breathing slowly and systematically. At the 8th breath, we are going to slowly come back up. At the initial starting position, we are going to slowly open our eyes again and come back to sitting. For the final exercise, still sitting on our bed, we are now going to open our legs a lot wider, probably about 3 feet wide. And if you're taking Fitrina's easier variation, you're just going to place your hands to the floor. And Joanne and myself, we are going to catch our fingers to the big toes together. So again, the idea is to level our head with our heart, and we are going to hold this for a minute with our eyes closed. Lengthening our spine by looking up just a little bit to protect our lower back on an inhale. Close our eyes and exhale. Try to level the head with the heart. We are also trying to forget about what happened throughout the whole day so that the brain is not as active as during the daytime, and it will enter sleep, if not actually hibernation mode, to help us sleep better at night. At the 8th and final breath, we are slowly to come back up to initial sitting position. And then open the eyes and come back to any comfortable cross-legged position, still on our bed. I highly recommend us to repeat the single nostril breathing, followed by drinking a warm cup of milk. Have a good day today and sleep well tonight.
so I'm here with Ho Tak Lun. Thank you so much for joining me for this chat.
My pleasure.
And Tak Lun is the founder of Clove and Clive, and we're going to be talking about mindfulness and the wiser you.
Mindfulness has to do with awareness. Now, mindfulness is a big word. But to make it simple for us to understand, I use the word awareness.
Right.
Awareness is something very unusual that is not happening in many of us. Like, for example, when I'm talking to you, am I mindful I'm talking to you, or I'm just talking to you but I'm not mindful of myself? So mindfulness here has much to do with when you're doing something, you're aware that you're doing something.
How does that help you?
Okay, so when we talk of awareness here, we're talking of the part of me that is constantly in a thinking mode, constantly or trying to convince someone else. So there's a lot of me going on, even though I think it is me, but there are a lot of thought systems going on. So we become aware of ourselves, we begin to notice that those thinking sometimes may inhibit our conversation. It may actually cause a separation in us. That thinking may produce certain kind of meanings that if I'm not aware of it, I may get influenced by it, and hence because of that, there is what I call a differentiation of opinions. But if I become aware of it, I may not buy into it.
So when you talk about mindfulness and wisdom, so how does that go together? I mean, how can we use that to help us in our daily lives? So if we have issues with anxiety maybe, or phobias? When
I use the word wisdom here, I'm reference to more of understanding. You know, when you understand yourself a little bit more, it becomes a wiser part of you. To understand something, you must approach that something in a more long-term observation. Like, for example, you want to observe a particular animal, a particular nature of the animal. So the only way best to know about the animal is to observe it long term. You just have to be patient, look at it. You don't interfere with it.
Right.
You don't intercept it. Whether it is there or not, you continuously gather data.
Right.
Long term, when you gather data, you begin to understand the whole nature of this particular thing that you're interested in.
Got it.
So awareness is the same. Awareness, when you become aware of your mind, you don't judge it, you don't see it right or wrong. It plays out on its own. Judgment is made by the mind often than not, and you're just aware of it, and you notice it's happening over and over again. And in that long term, when you observe it over and over again, you start to see a pattern that actually is not you. It is a running program that has been conditioned for so long in your life that each time when a certain happening takes place, the condition plays up again. So when you become aware of it, you need not actually buy into it. You can become more conscious about it, and then become a wiser you, because now you have a choice. If you notice very carefully, phobias or anxieties or even worries for that matter,
yes,
they usually sprung from thoughts, how we think about situations. Now, if you're able to step back and be aware of thoughts, you begin to notice certain thoughts actually arises naturally on its own.
Yes.
So what happens next is when you do not notice them as thoughts, even though they are within you, in the mind, but they don't actually define you. You and the thoughts are different things altogether.
Right.
So when you're able to look at thoughts as thoughts, then you can start to ask a very simple question. Are those thoughts beneficial or unbeneficial? In the beginning, when you're not mindful, every thought is important to you.
Yes.
You know, and you start to take it as the thought is you. And I'd like to give you a simple illustration to look at that. Consider that there are two situations where you can look into. One is there is a house and there is a you. Okay, there are two things. And the other one is the house is you.
Okay.
So when the house is you, it is one, whereas the house and you is actually two different things.
Right.
Now, when we come into emotions, when we say, for example, I'm upset, as compared to I'm feeling upset.
Okay.
It's a different thing, because when it says I'm feeling upset, it is something like you and the house.
Yes.
Whereas it says I'm upset, you become the house.
Yes.
Now, there are totally two different scenes altogether, because if you think you are the house, if anything happens to the house, you become that. Whereas if you and the house, anything happens to the house, you can still step out and actually look at it. So when we look at awareness, we are learning to come from the approach of watching the mind in an objective manner. to see thoughts as thoughts, not I am the thoughts.
Got it.
So it is the thoughts that produce anxiety, it is the thoughts that produce worries, and of course there are thoughts that makes you feel happy too, you know.
Right.
But ultimately, when you look them as thoughts, it doesn't matter whether they're happy or unhappy thoughts, but if you see them very wisely, there is another kind of happiness arrive from there. You become, you're no longer a servant of the mind. You become the master of the mind.
Exactly, and that would be the ultimate.
Yes.
So this is very interesting, mindfulness. Maybe, would you have any methods that you can share with us? So the audiences will be able to observe mindfulness.
There are a few important points that we can learn about mindfulness. First and foremost is this word called non-judgment, you know, and non-interference, or what you can notice about your mind. What you can do at home is just relax yourself, you know, sit in a posture that gives you a lot of comfort, but yet the quality of alertness must be there.
Okay.
So when you just sit back and just close your eyes, or even open your eyes, you know, you learn to have this idea of non-judgment, what you can notice about yourself. Probably you will find that your mind will start to have a thought coming up, you want to do something else. In a state of non-judgment, in a state of non-interference, in a state of non-involving. You just notice, oh, there is this mind that wanted to do something else.
Right.
You don't fight it, you don't try to control it, you just begin to notice it in a very relaxed way. You know? So in this way, you learn to step back and notice what the mind is doing on its own accord, and you're just there to meet it accurately, precisely, non-judgmental, non-interference, and non-involving, just for the sake of learning about your mind a little more.
So then the idea would be to try and take that observation into your daily life.
Yes.
So you start off by first maybe being at home on your own, in the quietness, and then progress to like using it when you're at the office or...
Yes, the more you learn about awareness, the more you become skillful about it. I'll give another example of driving. You know? When you're driving, many times we have this sense that I am driving. But if you were to be mindful a little each day, you know, you can just sit back and you notice that the mind actually knows how to drive on its own because it has been conditioned. It knows when to step on the brake,
yes.
It knows when to turn. So it is as if like you become a witness to your mind. You learn to step back and notice, wow, actually the mind can do a lot of things, you know, on its own. Of course, those are useful things, but what about minds that complain? What are minds that make judgments, or even certain tendencies that mind may have that is not pleasant to you, you may find stressful, you know? So in this way, you also learn about those minds, and slowly, when you become more mindful about it, you begin to notice they are actually conditions or patterns of the past which need not necessarily denote who you are now. Yes. But because you're not mindful about it, you engage in it, you fall into it, you actually reinforce that particular condition over and over again.
Yeah, that is what I try and do when I have like problems or something that I need to face, and I resist the urge to complain. So every time I complain about something, I make a note of it and be aware, and I say, okay, I don't do it again. Because it's just not something that you should do, right? Because it's a negative thing. It influences the other people around you.
True.
To feed on that negativity as well.
Now, what you share is very interesting because it is talking about mindfulness and the wiser you. Because many a times we are aware of it, but when there is no wiser you, there is no. I use a more common word. When there is no what I call a common sense in you that. When you speak certain things, it not only affect you, but may affect practically everybody around you. And because there's a wiser you, you realize, oh, this is not necessary to speak. Hence, you are able to hold back. You know?
Yes.
So there is a part of awareness in you, and there is also another wiser you that can distinguish what is beneficial and what is not beneficial.
So that's why we call it the mindfulness and the wiser you. Fantastic. So interesting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Learned a lot. Shall we have some coffee and tea and chat a bit more?
Yes, thank you.
Well, that's all we have for today, and we hope you've enjoyed the show. Remember, healthy body, healthy mind. See you again next week. Bye.